Okay, I just wanted to make this video sharing kind of a cool idea that I had. You know what, like, what if everybody in the world told, like, all the leaders to pretty much just go F themselves? It's because, like, what I've noticed with a lot of these apps that have been going around, I'll try to be careful with what I say because, like, obviously stuff's being tampered with. But I've noticed with, like, a lot of the tools that we have nowadays, like, we have earbuds that can, like, literally translate in real time. We have the Neuralink that's going to be able to translate languages. Plus, like, this is the only time in human history, maybe even human existence, where I was able to talk to somebody literally on the other side of the planet. And it's actually kind of amazing. But the good thing about these technologies is people are starting to see how human everyone is, and it's really hard for, like, a more powerful person that owns a lot of land and a lot of assets. Like, they can't just cut a group of people off from the world like they used to and then just feed them a bunch of myths about the other culture. And basically the other culture is going to do the same thing. They're going to the other side's always going to be the bad guy. It's just like the people who win wars are the ones who write history. It's just like, I don't think there was ever, like, a whole civilization of just pure evil people that has ever existed. Of course, you have your pirates, you know, your gangs and stuff like that, but usually, like, stuff like that seems to come from poverty. It just seems like a lot of the bad things that happen in our world all come down to the fact that people don't have their basic needs, which is kind of insane because we throw out enough to pretty much give everybody in the world their basic needs. There's no reason for this, and, like, people have a right to be really upset. But since information is way easier to access and spreading false information is a lot harder nowadays, because that's one of the things that I enjoyed about this app is people could say whatever they wanted for a while, but the thing about free speech is you're supposed to have other people counter those arguments. You're supposed to see the back and forth so you can see why their ideas don't make sense, or why they might be a bad idea, or maybe why it will be a bad idea down the road. Like, that's basically what our country was built on, is that back and forth. Like, that's what I love about the United States, is because you have the both extremes, you know, your fascists and your communists on each side, and then the people in the middle can be alright amongst the chaos, because they're always going to be trying to pull in their direction. So that'll keep it from going from the communists, keep it from going to this extreme, and the fascists keep it from going to this extreme. That's basically how I'm seeing our political system. But if you start restricting what people say and you don't let the chaos unfold, that's basically where you're just going to, like, turn into a dictatorship. Like, that's why we feel free as a people, is because we can speak our minds and we can fight with each other over our ideas, and then we can go with the best idea, which it seems like now that the younger generation is finally able to get some people in the office, hopefully things will change for the better. Sorry, I keep pausing this video because, like, my train of thought keeps switching off, and then I just pause it until it comes back. But anymore, what I'm seeing in our country is the more negative sides of capitalism. Like, you know, I don't know what happened, but I'm pretty sure when I was in elementary school back in the 90s, I was taught that monopolies were highly illegal because of the labor wars. You know, when people start having monopolies where they can literally own everything, or an entire industry, or an entire town, then it will just fall into that dictatorship type leadership, because they'll own everything. They'll be above the law because they own it, but nobody else will be allowed to have anything. And then basically you're just creating another dictatorship society within a free country, and that's why the labor wars happen. But from what I've seen in that history is the same thing that's happening today. It's just like you had these big corporations, they owned way too much, and then you had one guy who was trying to extract even more wealth, even though he already had everything. So he was lowering labor rates, and he was upping the price of rent and the cost of food and everything, and then basically like drove his own employees into poverty and tried to take everything like that. That's why people freaked out, and that conflict happened in our country. It happened during the late 1800s, early 1900s. What I kind of fear today is that, I was taught that that's why monopolies are illegal, is to prevent that from happening, but it just seems like monopolies are now legal again because these tech companies are trying to create monopolies, which is not fair. There should always be competing companies. Like, that's how a free market's supposed to work, is because, that back and forth. Same thing with a free market. That's how it's supposed to work. It's like if a big company screws up, they're supposed to fall, so then a better company with slightly different ideas can maybe take its place and last longer. There's always supposed to be some level of chaos like going on. But I'm just going to end this little rant with, I hope things start changing, because whenever I'm talking to people on the other side of the world that, I was taught all my life that, I was supposed to feel bad about them, those people are now feeling bad about us because of the stuff that we have to deal with. And we even had the Constitution on our side, and we're still not really doing anything about it. Those people managed to get, their way of life without a Constitution. Just it doesn't make sense to me. It's have we as Americans became so lazy and complacent that we're just going to give everything up? It just seems like the only thing anybody wants to do is just vote for a politician and let him go fix everything. Well, unfortunately, the way the human consciousness works is whenever you get into that level of power, you're never going to be 100% good. And even if you are, you're going to hit some level of narcissism anyways, because, nobody can handle that type of money and attention. It's going to blow your brain up. Your ego is going to go, and that can always have negative consequences. But above all, I kind of, now I'm giving Trump the benefit of the doubt. Throughout my life, the politicians have been pretty terrible. It's just we just had recession after recession. It's just it's life might seem a little bit more difficult for me than my parents, but I'm still really happy for all my friends that did, that do have a nice life and everything like that. It's just seems like it's harder and it's less common for people to be stable nowadays than it was a few decades ago. But we as a people really need to start coming together and just realize that we're not in a left versus right conflict. We're in a top versus bottom conflict. It's just we can't be hating each other, because back to the labor wars, it's another reason why they got away with a lot of that stuff, is because they would create conflict between groups of people. They would bring back racism, just anything they could, because if they got you focused on your neighbor, you're not going to focus on them, is basically what's happening. And I seen that happen throughout my entire life on a national level. I seen more and more of a division as time went on. I remember a day where a Republican and a Democrat could have a pretty good conversation, and now today it seems like it's impossible, because our media is doing a lot of illegal stuff. That's another thing that I thought was illegal, was slander. Why are these people being slandered and there's no lawsuits? The only way that would be possible is if they're saying these things and all the bad things you're hearing are actually true. You could take somebody to court for spreading false information about you. It's slander laws. I don't get it. Unless it's different because you're a public figure. But if somebody could let me know on that part, that would be really nice. But if you made it to the end of the video, thank you. I really appreciate it. Thanks for listening to me. But that's my thought process anyways.